What's up, lovely people? Welcome back to another episode right here on Entrepreneur Podcast Club. I'm your host, Mr. EPC, and today got yet another very special guest all the way from America. So without further ado, let's go straight into the podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my very special guest all the way from the United States of America, AJ Amyx. So welcome to the show first and foremost, and thank you very much for your time. So
you're welcome, Mr. EPC. Good to be here. You know, it's interesting. People introduce me, or actually only Europeans introduce me from being from the United States, because the reality, I'm from Texas. Texas is basically our own country, right? So like if I travel, and I travel often, people are like, where are you from? I'm from Texas. My wife's from Romania. And so she's like, why do you say you're from Texas? Why don't you say you're from America? I'm like, I don't know. We just say we're from Texas. It's what we do.
Yeah, because I think in terms of Europeans, it's a big deal to have someone from America on their podcast. Hence why I have to emphasize America.
No, it's good, man. It's just a funny notion as I've traveled, and it's a Texan thing. It's just silly.
Fantastic. Okay. So you're a coach leader that trains up startups to make up to six figures. So how did you come about creating that business idea?
Yeah, man, it's been a journey, man. I did music in college. After college, I was doing music professionally, and we had like a big tour bus. We had record offers and radio play here in the Dallas market. When that came crumbling down, October of 2009, we played our last radio show. I was like, what am I going to do next? Do I put together a band? Do I do something different? And around that time, around 2008, I was really starting to get into this possibility of internet marketing. At that point in time, 2008, 2009, I was seeing people like Mike Dillard and Jonathan Budd, Brendan Burchard, Frank Kern, John Reese. And so they were generating leads online, and come back to like Frank Kern, come back to Brendan Burchard, come back to John Reese. Like they're doing $1 million launches. John Reese had the first $1 million day. And I was really inspired because like music was our way of like getting a message out into the world and creating an experience to like really impact people's life. And so when I saw this thing called like social media marketing and like internet marketing and things of that nature, I was like, so I can use a laptop and an internet connection from anywhere in the world. And it's basically like being on stage in front of 5,000 people, but different. Like there's even more people. And so I was really inspired by that possibility. So we fast forward to 2011. I bought my first online course from Mike Koenigs. It was called Social Media Marketing Machines. I think it was like $3,000 at that point in time. And I got it, that course gave me the skill sets to go out and build a social media marketing agency. So that was 2011. By 2012, I had built a social media marketing agency. I had like 23 clients on a reoccurring basis. And I was just working nonstop. I was a total solopreneur. I knew nothing about business. I didn't understand hiring or firing or delegating or anything of that nature. I was just doing everything myself, the marketing, the sales, the fulfillment. So by 2012, I was super burnt out. I had met a guy named Garrett J. White at an event in New York City in 2012. August of 2012, I reached out to Garrett because I was just burnt out. I was frustrated. I was just kind of apathetic, just like, I don't know what else to do. I'm so tired. And I reached out to Garrett. I was like, yo, man, I don't know if you remember me. I was on a Facebook message. I don't know if you remember me. We connected. We met at Brendan Burchard's New York City event. And here's where I'm at. And I just kind of shared with him all of my burnout, all of my fatigue. Here's what I want to do, all about creating courses online and helping people and all of that. I was inspired by Brendan Burchard. And I was like, I don't even know if this is what you do or if you help people. I don't even know what you do. And Garrett's like, yeah, man, let's get on the phone and talk. So then we had a sales conversation. I ended up hiring Garrett J. White as my first kind of coach / mentor, 2012. And over the next 6 months, Garrett kind of taught me the game of internet marketing and was like, hey, how about we transition you from a service-based business into teaching and running events, because that's something that you really, really enjoy doing. So that's what I started doing. I started then hosting small events, teaching people how to generate leads using social media. And I then got really frustrated because I could give people all of the same skill sets. And I noticed some people would generate results and some people wouldn't generate results. And I was like, why is it they all have access to the skill sets? Why is it some get results, some don't? And I'm a guy who just likes results. Like if we're not generating results, then I'm kind of like, what's going on here? How do we pivot? What do we need to do? So then that dove me into this idea of mindset of like, okay, well, if they have the right belief systems, they have good, the right way of thinking about themselves and the world, then they're going to be able to generate more results. So then I dove into my own edges around mindset. So then I started teaching skill sets and mindsets. And lo and behold, it got a little bit better results. But again, you could give people mindsets and skill sets, and not everybody would generate the results. And then that ultimately led me down into a path of what I would call body sets, our unconscious, spiritual transformation, changing who we are at a cellular level, really realizing and seeing what unconsciously makes us tick, and how do we actually be in alignment with this identity of who we say that we want to be, not because we have something to prove or defend. It's just who we are. And from this place of who we are, we go out and we serve and we solve problems. And that's ultimately, over the past 12 years, this has just been my journey of becoming a coach. It wasn't like something I set out to do and was like, okay, out of university, here's this huge $1 billion opportunity of coaching. That's what I want to do with my life. It's just, as I pursued being my best self, I've just been able to reach back and help others kind of be their best selves, and create whatever it is that they want to create, which is different things for different people.
Okay, fantastic. So let's go back to 2011 when you got your first client. So how long did it take you to get your first client?
That's actually easy. So I got my first client 2011. I guess it took me, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks. And here's the reason why. So I went and joined the local chamber of commerce at that time. And so that's where all of the business owners were. I joined, I paid the money to join. And I had a friend of mine who was a very successful real estate business owner where I lived. And he told me, he's like, if you join the chamber, you can't just join. It's not going to do you any good. However, if you start getting involved, like go to all of the ribbon cuttings, go to all the luncheons, go to all the after hours, like go build relationships with your target market. If you do that, then you're going to be able to get some clients. But if you just join, it's a complete waste of money. So I took what he said seriously. So when I joined, I then went to the first luncheon. I went to the ribbon cuttings. I went to the after hours. And during the first luncheon, most people, when they're like, oh, we have a new member, will you stand up and introduce yourself? Most people are like, hi, I'm so-and-so. This is what I do. If you need help, let me know. And then they sit down. Well, I took my little 30-second little spot that I had, and I told a story. So I had prepped and prepared and all of my story that I knew would speak to this target market. And I talked about how the yellow pages were kind of like nursing homes at that point in time, meaning the people who use yellow pages, they're old, they're outdated, and they're a little bit crazy. I'm kind of like a nursing home. It's full of people. And then I talked about how there was internet marketing and how it was, not a nursing home. And it was a new opportunity. And so when I sat down, there was a guy across from, like, a couple tables over, and he was like, I need to talk to you after this. And I was like, he's like, I think you could help my son. And so his son lived in Vegas, and that became my first client that I got for a video marketing project. So it didn't take that long. And that was a huge lesson. And I think oftentimes in today's digital age, where internet marketing. And to this day, I mean, at the time of this interview, it's 2023, I believe, is what year we're in at this moment in time. It's like the fastest path to cash is always offline. Typically, it's like, go find your people. And if you can go offline to find your target people and build relationships with them, and you're able to have the skill sets to solve a specific problem for them, by far, time and time again, it's going to be typically everybody's fastest path to cash.
Oh, wow. Okay, fantastic. So in terms of the market, what shift or changes have you seen in the market from 2011 all the way up until today in 2023?
I think that there's the big shift going on. So 2011 was definitely, I can't say it's the rise of the information age, because it started way before that. But it definitely became this opportunity where, like, if you had skill sets, if you had the ability or the willingness to learn how to package up your information to solve specific problems, it was a huge opportunity. And then it created this whole industry, which is like what I would call like the information industry, selling courses, selling audios, selling, back at that point in time, CDs, but now we'd sell like flash drive, like any way that we're selling information that's solving a specific problem. The way that I'm seeing that change now, as in 2023, is I don't think just selling information in and of itself is enough, right? Back then, you would look at like, well, even if you're not a topic expert, then you could create a business where you could curate information and people would then pay you to have access to that information, so they're not having to go out and put all the pieces together. And there's still people doing that today. However, if we fast forward, I still don't even think that's going to be super, super relevant, because we're going to have AI that's going to be able to curate information without needing people to do it at a pace that's just faster than even a human could do it, or even faster than a team of VAs could do. So I see this new opportunity. There's still, yes, people want access to the information. They want access to that information because it's going to help them have a transformation. But community, those who are willing to take on this ability and get the skill sets of like, how do I actually build community? So it's not no longer just like, hey, here's some information that's going to change your life if you implement it. Now it's about, here's the information, but more importantly, here's a virtual experience of how you can learn this information with other people, and you guys can share what you're learning, what mistakes that are going on, how is it changing you, what's working, what's not working. And now there's this communal experience, this community of like-minded people who are going on the journey together. I see those who are using community is one of the biggest opportunities right now if you're in the online business space.
Okay, fantastic. So in terms of the community that you mentioned there, what is the community? How would you define the community?
So I would define the community as like a group of people who are moving towards like a common goal, or you could call it a cause, right? So it's like if it's like, so what is that for people? It's different things for different people, but maybe it's like they're going on the journey of being their best selves, or maybe it's going on the journey of learning how to be a high ticket closer, or maybe it's going on the journey to be a professional musician, or maybe it's going on the journey to know this thing that we call God or spirit or universe or different sects or dogmas or whatever it is. It's this really, whoever's creating the community has to think through, what is that North Star that we're leading all of these people to? And then what is this customer journey, or what are the stages, or what are the phases, or what are the steps that's guiding them through? And then also using technology to gamify the whole experience, so people could start making it fun. They could start collecting points, and then they could start redeeming those points, whether it's money back on that experience, money towards the next live event, points towards getting swag, like however they want to start redeeming those points. That's how I start seeing people really building community today.
Okay, fantastic. So let's just dive in a bit about yourself. So where were you born and bred? Were you born and bred in Texas? And in terms of your education, what uni did you go to? University, sorry. So
Yeah,
do you just want to tell the audience a bit about yourself?
sure. So I was actually born in Dallas, Texas, and I was raised in a little bitty small town called Seven Points, Texas. We always joke and call it Seven Pints, because it basically was just this little honky tonk town of, at that point in time, like 800 people. And basically the only thing in my town growing up was a couple of country western bars. It's about it. So that's where I grew up. And then after I grew up there, I went to uni in a small little private Methodist university called McMurray University out in West Texas, out in Abilene.
Okay, fantastic. So you graduated from university, and then did you go straight into music straight after that?
Yeah, basically. So I started playing music in high school with one of the guys that I played soccer with. We went to college together. He's one of my best friends, and we continued writing music in college. And by our sophomore year in college and university, I was like, "Hey, dude, let's take this seriously." And that summer, I read a music business book, and I did an internship with one of the lead booking agencies in Texas at that point in time. And so I learned the whole music business just experientially and studying, and then we started applying that to our career. And so then after college, after university, we just kept playing shows, and ultimately until we got the record deals. And in the meantime, I was using kind of my degree at that time, which was it was an art degree with an emphasis on graphic design. And so I was a contractor for an ad agency where I was doing PR, I was designing websites, I was designing posters for Nike. So that was just kind of my life as an artist, doing graphic design to pay the bills, and then doing music on this dream side of life.
Okay, fantastic. So when you were doing the music, did you meet any famous musicians or anyone famous?
Yeah, we met people famous. It depends on what people the deem as famous. I know in college when I was a booking agent, Montel Jordan, who was like a famous hip hop guy in the 90s. He had a song like "This Is How You Do It." I was working with an artist who's actually pretty popular now, Coffee Anderson. He was a good friend of mine back in that time. And Montel Jordan's manager and his wife was Coffee's manager. And so I knew, Montel Jordan's wife. I knew Coffee Anderson. We toured with a bunch of people that were somewhat kind of famous in the Christian rock industry, like Seventh Day Slumber. We also played with like The Wedding and Luminate and Spoken and Project 86, which were popular bands within that genre. The Temptations, which were like an older band. I don't remember the decades that they grew up in. I was friends and talking with their manager outside of class. So Rupert from Survivor, who's one of America's favorite survivors. He's on a reality TV show in America. Rupert, I don't remember his last name. We worked with him. And so I remember having coffee with him. So yeah, I definitely worked with some famous people. I never really related to them. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm working with famous people. I've always had this weird relationship of like, we're just all people. Like we all put on our pants one leg at a time. We all bleed red. Like we're just human beings,
Okay, fantastic. So, in terms of the famous people that you met, or people that some may deem as famous, did you connect with them when starting that with your company in
No,
2011?
I never connected with them when starting my company because it was just like, I don't know why I didn't. I just never really saw the opportunity of being like, oh, let me use social media and reconnect to the famous people. And maybe I completely missed out on a whole opportunity there. I've never even thought about that. No, I actually just went straight into just like, I'm going to go help traditional business owners generate leads. And that's what led me to joining the Chamber of Commerce, because it answered that question in business, like, where are my people at? How can I access them the fastest and build relationships with those people?
Okay, fantastic. So, what does a typical day look like for yourself?
I have a really boring typical day. Like I'm just an ordinary man with an ordinary wife and an ordinary child, and I really enjoy that. And so, man, we get up 6, 7 o'clock. I make my daughter breakfast. I make her lunch. My wife then gets up at 7:30, helps her get dressed. My wife goes to Pilates, and then I take my daughter to school. After I drive back home, I then meditate for about 40, 45 minutes typically, read, and then I start my day around 10 o'clock and then work from like 10 to 5:30. And then after that, I'm just hanging out with my wife and my daughter and dinner and things of that nature. Like I've found typically for me, I was caught up in grandiosity. Like, how do I go out and solve the world's problems, make a name for myself? And it served me. And I'm coming home to the possibility, the most grandiose, crazy thing I could ever do is just living in the tension of like, yes, go out and serve people, make an impact, while also knowing I'm just an ordinary man with an ordinary wife and an ordinary child. And it's perfect to kind of live in that paradox.
Absolutely. So, going back to 2011, if you compare your work life back then to today,
Mm.
how has that changed?
Vastly. If I go back 2011, it was literally get out of bed, drink some coffee, and I'd get up around same time, 7 o'clock. But then I would read till about 8:30, or meditate a little bit, and then I would work from 8:30 till 8:30 at night, 8:30 in the morning till 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, go to bed around 11, and then just repeat it for years after years after years. I didn't date at that point in time. Didn't have, I didn't date. I didn't do anything. I literally only worked. That's it. I got up, I read a little bit of spiritual stuff, and then I just worked, whether it was meetings or whatever the day looked like till 10, 11 o'clock, and rinse and repeat for, man, probably a good 5 year period for sure. 2011 until, 2013, 2014. Yeah, definitely 4 years for sure. Because then I met my wife in 2014 and started slowly adjusting my schedule.
Okay, fantastic. So, you mentioned reading there. So, what type of books do you read to increase your knowledge about the business or line of work that you're in?
Right now, I read a lot of spiritual stuff. Right now, I'm reading the autobiography of a yogi. Before that, living surrendered, living untethered. I also still go back to read like expert secrets, .com secrets, traffic secrets, stuff around that. But typically often I'm definitely more in the spiritual vein of things. I typically find if I'm whole and complete, or if I feel, I don't know, connected, this is just for me, then the work tends to flow naturally. If I need a skill set, I can go hire a coach and go hire a mentor. I can go grab a program to gain access to that skill set if I want to. But for me, my most of what I study is definitely in the spiritual vein of things.
Okay, fantastic. So, what entrepreneurial advice can you give to someone who is watching this and wants to go into business?
And they want to go into business?
Yeah.
Perfect. I would say, what is a specific problem that you could solve for a specific person? And if whatever that is, can that intersect with something that you really, really enjoy? And it doesn't even mean that you have to enjoy doing it, right? It's just really asking the question, what is a specific problem that you could solve for a specific person? And then would you enjoy actually fulfilling it or just running it? And so oftentimes I'm making this distinction because not everybody is made, I don't believe, and this hasn't been my experience, to do all of the fulfillment. Some people are just wired differently where they're really good at just running a business. Some people are wired where they're really good at fulfilling it. And so I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes we do have to do this sometimes, especially when we're just starting out, right? It's like you got to be everything. You got to be the janitor, you got to be the person who sweeps, you got to be the person who does sales and marketing and fulfillment, and you take all this on. But it's like living in the question though, like a little bit bigger beyond that. What is kind of your skill set? Are you the person who runs a business? Like I have a friend of mine who's fantastic at running businesses. If I come home to my truth, I'm not the greatest at running a business. I can do it, but I'm okay at it. I'm mediocre at it. What I'm extremely fantastic at is the fulfillment side. Like it's almost part of my genius. And so knowing that, then I can just be like, cool, well, as a business owner, I'm going to focus more on fulfillment, but I'm going to bring on team members who are going to do more of the day-to-day management. And then we're both going to make money together and we're both going to grow together, rather than me living in this limiting belief of like, well, I got to be all of it, or I got to be great at every aspect of it. That's what I would tell an entrepreneur. Just back up. If you're starting a business, what's a specific problem that you could solve for a specific person? And then really ask yourself, are you really great at fulfilling that service? Or do you want to go on the journey to being amazing at fulfilling that service? Or do you want to be going on, great at running the business? And then how do you start bringing people on to help you on that journey?
Okay. So would you say if look at their skill set and what they're good at, just concentrate fully on that, get to like 100%, be perfect at that, or to a level that's close to perfect, then start bringing in people to manage the rest of the parts of the business?
Yeah, I would say lean into what lights you up. And so if you'll just like pay attention and like really ask the question, like what lights you up? Like when you're doing those tasks, what feels the most expansive? What feels the most freeing? What feels the most like enlivening or inspiring to take on? Lean into that and just like live in the question of like who, like rather than figure out like how to do something, ask a question: who do I need or who do I want that could help me do this? And then just get clear on what that whose responsibility is, and then start being open, like you said, to bringing people on, asking them. And I think a lot of people make the mistake thinking, well, I don't have the money to hire somebody full time. That's fine. Could you offer them a percentage? Do you have to give them an ownership piece of your company? Like, how could you just sit in the possibility of how it could potentially happen and who could be that perfect ideal person? And then how could you make it a win for you and a win for them? That would be what I would say.
Okay, fantastic. So in terms of your business, what are the plans in the next 5 years for your business?
5 years. So I used to think in like, what is 10 years out? What is 5 years out? Currently, with everything, like just the world is currently moving extremely fast, extremely fast. I personally cannot see 5 years out from now. So I have to back up and be like 2 years. And so I was even talking to a very big company, Dow Tile, huge corporation in the tile business. Their whole executive team's the same way. They're not looking 5 years out. They're not even looking 10 years out because technology is moving so fast. The industry is moving too fast. Their leadership team is looking 2 years out. But even in the 2 years out, it's more of an intention because they know every 6 months they're having to pivot extremely quickly. So 2 years out for me is this really continuing to build communities of people who just want to go on the journey of being their best self, which is going to increase their performance, increase their retention, increase their ability to lead their families. For me, it's just about building community. It's about building what I call like little albums or little songs, online experiences that are solving specific problems, things about like connecting with the divine feminine, things about up-leveling your ability to create harmonic relationships, things like we're doing with Social Glow, where we've created software that's helping people create highly engaged communities, which is leveraging gamification, and it's more about creating experiential learning rather than just courses. Those are the types of things that I'm working on and that we're doing, and that's about 2 years out for me, just as it unfolds.
Okay, fantastic. And that is all the questions. Just want to say a big, massive thank you to AJ for taking the time out to speak to me today. So thank you very much, AJ Amyx. I will put the link for your Instagram page in the description box below. I've been your host, Mr. EPC. And if you did like this podcast, please do hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And thank you very much for watching.